my introduction into hip-hop when I got back into it was in the early 90s as a street promoter. Somebody who I know who knew who was a promoter who needed somebody on the street handing out flyers was my introduction, and I actually went and did it. And what was cool is I hated it at first because it was like $50 a week. It was a complete joke. But everything that I am today is because of what I learned doing that job. And I'm telling you, I still do it to this day. For anything that's under pressure related that's out on the street, you'll see me on the street putting those flyers out and those posters out to this day at 38 years old. Happily, because I can do it better than anyone else that I can ever hire. Because I understand it, and I've been doing it for so long. And as you're doing it, you're studying. You're studying everything, you're studying the changes in the market, and the way that people see things, what they respond to, who's on the street, and more importantly, you're talking to people. And this is the thing, before you even worry about branding yourself, before you even worry about succeeding, everything's based on who you know. You could be the most talented person in the world, but if people don't know you, you're not going anywhere. Other people have to believe in you, just as much as you believe in yourself. And in order for them to see that you believe in yourself and that you're hardworking and dedicated, they have to meet you. So I don't care if you have 12,000 friends on Facebook, I don't care what you have on Facebook, Facebook's a great tool, but back to the roots, you gotta talk to people face to face. When you're at clubs, when you go to shows, when you do anything, the last person that you might think is somebody important you might meet is the last person you wanna have attitude with. You wanna be cool with those people, everybody can help your career. If you have integrity, if you're real, if you're legit, that's what people wanna do. They don't wanna work with somebody, they don't wanna work with your image, they wanna work with you first. An image can be built. You can work together to build an image. You can work together to build a product. You could have great stage presence but not be the best person to write music. Somebody else can help you write music and you can learn. Look at guys like Exhibit who are in studio and all these other guys who've discovered people, whether it's Usher with Bieber and all these stupid things. This is based on years and years and years and years of their own experience learning, working with professionals, Beastie Boys, all these guys, Rick Rubin. Like you look at some of these guys, they're the last guys that you would think would be involved, but these are the guys who make it happen. But it's a team effort, everybody. It's network, 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 always. So Facebook is a great tool to get into contact with people, but you have to make the effort to go out there and actually sit with these people in the right time, right environment, do everything. When you're looking for sponsorships, when you're doing any of this stuff, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, later on during the conference, it's all about how you approach things. It's about doing your homework, researching things, making sure you know what you're talking about when you contact somebody. You should know that person's history as well as you know yourself, because that's a sign of respect. If you're going to have that kind of conversation with somebody, you have to know what they're involved in, you have to know what they did, and try to relate to them. And when people relate to you, you'll do things. There's people in the room here that I've been lucky enough to work with over the years, guys like Similac, where I don't know where the hell he is, he's hiding somewhere. He's hiding out somewhere anyways. But guys like that, like, you would never, like, he'll sit in his basement and do stuff. There's stuff that he's done for the music industry in Canada that you would never even know. That's the person who you want to talk to. That's one of the people that you want to talk to. All the years of experience that he has and things like that, those are the people you need to talk to, but you have to find out how to reach him. And he's a hermit. He's my boy, but he's a hermit. But the thing is, he knows everything there is to know. When I put out the Up North Trip compilations, we worked with people. I didn't profess to know music. I didn't profess to do anything. I had an ear. I knew what I liked. I brought on a team of people who could all work together and do things. And the last compilations that we put out, Similac was one of the producers on it, co-producers. It takes people like that to do things. You can't do everything yourself. You have to work with people around you. You have to talk to people. We were all talking before about things. We talk on a constant basis. Not all of us hang out together. We all have respect for each other in the industry. We've all come up. We've all worked for different companies and different things. But when we need something, we know professionally that we all respect each other and we can talk to each other about things. It doesn't matter if we're working for competing brands or anything. We all share the same respect, the same job, the same ups and downs, same everything, and we all want to work with people. So if somebody has an artist who approaches me to sponsor them or to do a project with, and right now it's not the right time for the brand or the people that I'm working with, it's my responsibility professionally to make sure that I can pass that artist on to somebody else within my network who may be able to help them. And if they can't, they got to pass it forward, the same thing. So it's all about your network, it's all about how you treat people, it's all about respecting yourself and how you act, and worry about your image once you're starting to do something. Build it at a certain point, because markets are going to change. So what's cool now, obviously, isn't going to be cool later. You got to constantly reinvent yourself. We decided that for people who weren't in the city, the only way that we could get people known was to create a magazine. So we created a magazine. Within the magazine, you can interview people, you can write about people, you can put pictures, everything. You can distribute this magazine worldwide. Now all of a sudden, people know this brand worldwide. Now take into consideration, I'm talking about Under Pressure, I'm talking about a festival that became a magazine, that became a record label. You're that brand, you can be all these things. So this magazine now becomes a vehicle in other cities. I didn't have to, like, people in like Paris or something were like, hey, let's do an Under Pressure in Paris. It's like, no, 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 no. You don't have to do it under pressure. Here's a magazine, it's out there in Paris, distribute the magazine for me, that'll help me. Things like that, let people get involved. Then we did the record label because we were like, well, instead of writing about and interviewing artists, you can't really hear their music, so we wanted to put out compilations, and we put them out free on the cover of the magazine and distributed that through our network around the world. You'd be surprised at how many people, when we approached them at first, were like, yeah, I'm not down, I don't want to be on the compilation, this and that. I was a marketing director for a major clothing company. People were telling me no. Nobody's just, you know, but people that if I approached them, or my team approached them, is because we saw value in them. And they were too stupid to realize that we didn't need it, it was, we wanted to do this. This was an investment, a financial investment. And I used to have to tell people, and I had to do it all the way up for 4 years, I had to tell some people, I'm like, okay, you know, you're signed to a label, you're this and that. I'm like, when was the last time you put out a promo CD and gave it away for free? And people were like, you know, well, we haven't done that yet. And I'm like, yeah, you know, it costs $6,000 to put out 5,000 CDs. Is your label going to invest that $6,000 into you just to give it away so people hear you? And people were like, oh, well. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, when you have the money to do it, go do it, whatever. But now we've got 17 people on this thing from across Canada. Collaborations are key, right? Because you need those people to do things. And you have to make sure that the people who are doing projects are doing it with integrity and they're doing it legit and that they're also going to try to help you and that they're there for you, and you'll see that with time. But collaboration is important. Brands, anything, clothing companies, it doesn't matter what it is. The more you collaborate, the more you contribute, the more that you help out. You know, if you say, you know, even if it's somebody who's doing something and you're not on the bill or you're not on something, offer to help out on the show. Just get your feet wet, get in there, help them out, and then get to know people, show them what you can do. I don't want to use a negative analogy, but I'm going to always say it's funny. Drugs are a big market, right? First one's free. It sounds stupid, but I mean, you know, this is a multi-million-dollar, you know, billion-dollar industry around the world. It's because people get hooked on something. Yeah. Get somebody hooked on you. Get them hooked on you, on your brand, and then introduce yourself. Get them hooked on you. Show them, like, when I went to work for LRG Canada, I just want to paint a really specific picture here. Multi-million-dollar streetwear brand. The Canadian distributor who had the brand didn't have a marketing department, didn't need one. I was working doing street promo for 555 Soul at the time, just putting up stickers and doing other shit. I went and took this job. You know how much I got paid? For 3 years working for LRG? $400 every 2 weeks. $400. I still had another full-time job. I went from that job to getting paid $75,000 a year for a brand because of what I did with that brand. Invest in yourself. Invest in other people's things if you believe in them, but invest in yourself. Don't be afraid to do it. Hold down a part-time job, hold down a full-time job. We were talking about this before. Your hobby should be your full-time job. Your full-time job should become your hobby. But have both sometimes, because you're going to need it, because you got to invest in yourself, you got to do things, you got to show people that you're willing to invest in yourself, you're going to do things, you're going to push yourself, and kind of like what you said before, if somebody else doesn't invest in you, you're going to do it anyways. So Under Pressure has survived like that for 16 years. We don't need corporate sponsors, we don't need this and that, we don't need any of that. We've been doing it for 16 years. You don't give us money, who cares? It's not like it's not going to happen. It's built on the community, it's built on all these people who volunteer for free, and all the people who still do it for free who don't care about money. One day it's worth something. It's already worth something. It's worth something to the community, it's worth something to the city, it's worth something to people who've come through. That's what matters, to the point where someone like A-Track, you know, he's talking about A-Track. Well, I've been working with A-Track since 1996. The first festival he ever played at was Under Pressure when he was 14. I've known him, he's like a little brother to me. When I was working at LRG, I was trying to get them to sponsor A-Track. They wanted nothing to do with it. The LA office wanted nothing to do with it. Nothing, zero. I kept showing them things. I was like, you gotta sponsor this guy, he's in LA, you can do a photo shoot out there, it's easy, you gotta run an ad with this guy. Wouldn't do it. They signed Kanye, because they're boys with Kanye. A-Track starts touring with Kanye. A-Track gets an LRG ad. I'm the marketing director for the country, the US company wouldn't even listen to me. My peers wouldn't even listen to me about it. They had to discover it on their own. So the smartest thing that I learned from things like that was, you just gotta put things under, sometimes you gotta put things under people's noses and not sell them. Let them discover it, kind of smoke and mirrors, trick them into discovering what it is, and just let their egos sometimes take control, and then you can help break your own career or other people's careers or things like that doing that. I want to add to something that Marcus said. Marcus made a really good point, is that your brand does start with you, and that's, I guess, kind of what I wanted to say before too, and I didn't really get it across that way, is that you, whoever you are, your integrity, everything about you, whatever you're into, whatever the reason is that you're doing what you're doing now, it starts there, the brand, right? Because you've obviously adopted or been influenced by something else that you've seen, someone else's brand or their character, who they are as a person. And if they had that kind of influence on you, then obviously, if you want to be known or you want to do things properly, then you should adopt that mentality and do the same thing. So if people want to be, like you because you're an integral person, because you do things with conviction, with dedication, that's important. And like we're saying, you can't constantly shift, but you can adapt, right? Because your interests are going to change, you're going to change, but it's got to be a smooth transition. You have to make sure that the people who follow you follow that movement and can follow it, because if not, then you lose your market. You lose what little momentum that you build. So you don't want to start over every time, and you got to pay attention to everything. You got to pay attention to the market out there, current trends, everything. And a lot of that has to do with, we all have backgrounds in fashion or design, like we've all said. We've all been promoters. Like, think about when we're talking, listen to the things that are common between all of us. We've all done very similar jobs, and we've all done about 50 jobs, and we all do those 50 jobs still to this day simultaneously. It's important because being involved in those things keeps us knowledgeable. So even if we don't execute those things ourselves and we're working with people who are just focused on that, we can help direct, we can invest our opinions and everything into it. So it's the same thing with you. Don't be afraid to be yourself, and that's where your brand starts. But stay consistent for a certain amount of time, like build momentum, don't give up, keep going. Even when you think that it's not working, give the extra push just to see, because don't forget, there's a lot of people who are going to give up in this industry. There's a lot of people who give up every day. We've seen people over the last 20 years give up left, right, and center. We're still here. We haven't given up, and we're still making a living doing this. And we know people all over the world, so you guys can do the same thing. There's artists in Montreal who have never broken really big, but they're still well known. Like Mark was saying, you walk somewhere, people know who you are, or you know people. It's important, it's your network. Montreal is a really good market for that too, because we have a really big city, but it's really small. We have a small community. So if people respect you, they'll pay attention to you. They'll know, they will pay attention to you. They will know what you're doing. If they see that potential in you, then they'll do something. And don't ever get insulted if somebody doesn't believe in you as much as you believe in themselves. If you respect that person and you want them to believe in you, then you should respect them first and foremost for their professional experience. And if they don't think that you're ready, there's a reason for it. And that's when your ego has to come down. And you have to ask that person, why? What can I do to change that? Not get mad. Not think that someone's hating. Hating doesn't exist. Not when it comes from professional people. Professional people don't hate. They speak the truth, but they'll always be willing to work with you. They'll never be like, yeah, sorry, no. They'll be like, okay, keep me in the loop, let's go, let's keep building things. They'll always make time for you. And that's when you'll know the difference between somebody who's hating on you and somebody who's not. So focus on your brand being you, like Marcus was saying, build that integrity, and then you'll see things will happen.